All right, guys, welcome back to another live show. Hopefully, everyone is doing good. Check the settings, make sure we are good to go. Looks like it. Hello, Sandra Piper. How are you doing? Hopefully, you're having a wonderful evening. I am getting things together. Yeah. Okay, what's going on here? Live there. Okay, so we're not connected on. Oh, you know how it is. Get set up and everything's supposed to be working, and then we're not. Seem to be streaming on the Facebook group, which is fine. Yeah, that did not work this time. So just checking things. But yeah, so yeah, we have a pretty interesting show for you guys. We're going to be taking a look at the baby Sasquatch, the baby Bigfoot in New York video, brought to light again by Bob Giblin, rehashing it, and then of course Steve Coles did a show not last Sunday, Sunday before last, talking about how he, of course, um, came about it, brought it to light and stuff, some of the background and stuff. And so we're just going to show the video in the enhancement video that I did a couple years ago. Actually, one of my first videos that I put out on this channel, actually. So we'll take a look at that and some of the zoomed in slow motion kind of stuff that you didn't see on Steve's channel and or on Bob's Gimlin's channel when he was narrating some stuff in his own opinion and hypothesis on that. So we're going to dive into it because it is a pretty interesting video. It's very interesting. And of course, made it on Animal Planet and yeah, so let me shut this off. Get this ready. So yeah. Hopefully everyone had a good, wonderful Easter. There's not going to be a show on Saturday, but next week and stuff we'll have something, and then that following weekend I'll be doing more probably lives from the field actually, because we'll just be spending time out in the field. Of course, using the brand new thermal. Try not to knock over everything. To get hopefully evidence and results. Okay, so what am I looking for? This. And then later in the show, we are going to have a little special viewing of some audio that a witness came forward to give us. I've been talking about this a while now, teasing and stuff, but we'll take a listen to it. Just the juicy parts, very quick clips, not the full length video or audio and stuff. So this would be just audio, no video. And also got a new report of possible Sasquatch activity and encounters and some interesting stuff. So we'll share that here. All right. Get this going. Get this going. Get this going. Phone's going off and everything. Okay. Here we go. And so this is let me stop sharing. Okay, so yeah, this is way back when I first started my channel. I actually had a different name. It was the Lost One Conservatory, and I think it was just a couple months. I put out a couple videos and stuff, and this was the name that I used and stuff. And the idea was, the Lost Ones Conservatory, Lost Cryptids Conservatory. It's the same. It's the same thing. The lost names of these creatures, monsters, or folktale myths and legends that modern people are now experiencing. Um, will be forgotten about all these legends and knowledge and all the things that were passed down and previously ghosts and spirits and the Western idea of all that stuff. It's not real. It's on the very fringe of the imagination, but um, all that knowledge. And so that was the idea of that. So I'm actually going to play this video. We are going to watch it and then go back, break it down, slow it down a little bit. Let me hide this. I want to check and make sure that I'm still here. All right. So sit back and get some interesting looks at the baby Bigfoot swing from the tree. Conclusive evidence. And back then, I was definitely using some different programs and the enhancements and stuff. So this was taken just south, a county south of the Catskill Mountains area. I mean, I guess it's not included in the area, but pretty close. I'm going to let this play without any commentary. All right, and there's a couple things going on in this video. We're going to we'll watch it again with a little bit of commentary, and I'm going to mute it so we don't hear the party goers explain the can rant, the cult of the cans. They're melting down aluminum cans, and giving a good time, and I think that's a key element of this video is how authentic it really is, because they are totally oblivious to what's happening into the background, which is going on right here. So let me try to back it up a little bit. If you guys are unfamiliar and stuff, I'll use the mouse to guide where we should look. Of course, section at all times. We're going to see right here this movement of the supposedly adult Sasquatch. In my opinion, places this baby up into the tree, does something, and then we see the baby swinging around right through here, and it's going to come out right here and hang out like an orangutan does. And we see it swinging, of course, and everyone's right there where it comes out, and these guys are completely oblivious. In fact, if you listen to the background noise, the whole campground is lit up with chatter and talking and everyone's having a good time, you just hear it as the background noise. We can replay it and listen to it as long as the audio is working on your guys' end. I'm going to have to check. So if you guys can hear it all right and stuff when we were playing the audio, let me know. So in this next section of video, we're going to take a listen, a look. We're going to listen to some nice music, and then we'll take a look at my zoomed in portions and then slow down. And these are actually have enhancements, and so they are a little bit of enhanced, a little bit of color and sharpness and stuff that I messed with. I actually used 2 different programs. Back then, you can see with the Keen Master logo right there was the finished one, and then I was using the same program I think I still use now. It was just an older one. So we're gonna pump up the. So you can listen to the background noise, and the whole campground is lit. There's music and stuff. They're partying in the Limbo Lake campground. Yeah, so it's pretty full. It's pretty going and stuff. Everyone's having fun. It's like 7 o'clock. Regarding the sun is about to start going down a little bit more. Got that twilight. Just zip back over here for a second so I can see what's going on in this end. Okay. If you guys can't hear the audio or anything like that, just let me know. I will share it off of YouTube directly, and then we might be able to bump it up a little bit more that way if it's giving you guys trouble. Yeah, so if yeah, hopefully you guys heard that. Should have done it. Maybe you guys didn't. I don't know. Did you guys hear that when I first played that? It doesn't really matter because it's the only the party people doing the canned rant. All right, so this should definitely work then. It'd be a lot better. All right, so we're gonna take a listen to the music and really the zoomed in portions and enhancements that I did of this potential baby Bigfoot, and then maybe get some of your guys' opinions and stuff on it now that you can see a zoomed in version and stuff, because this is not something that a lot of people have done or put out there. And so this is what I thought about doing, and yeah, it's good to revisit and stuff. And that's what this whole show is about. I'm going to turn my speakers down because they're a little loud. All right, so we're going to take a look, and right now we are looking at this potential adult, and there's not much of a frame, but we have the individual right here, and right there it potentially looks like it's lifting up where it does something. Potential baby right there. But it's when the camera comes back up to it, do we now get to view the young Bigfoot. And so it's full speed and then slow down. So you can see it's moving and then it swings down. That flash right there is actually ash coming off the fire. And we can worry about the music also. I don't know if that music's too loud for you guys or not. So here it was up in the canopy, and then it swings down and extends itself, really like orangutans do. And I can tell you that from being up in trees and stuff and working with trees, it's definitely not a person that's up there doing that. So here it comes down, and this is the money shot right here, where it extends itself. You know, so that's not a bird, that's not a squirrel, that's not a raccoon, it's not a deer, it's not a bear. Exotic monkey type animal, ape, potentially, but again, when it was discussed on Steve's show, exotic animals, you know, you are under a tight niche of liability all the time because attack someone else, you know, you're in trouble and stuff, you know, especially at a public campground, which, you know, what Steve revealed was, you know, they didn't have insurance like that for exotic animals, you know, stuff like that, small campgrounds. You know, usually you don't like a chimp running around or any other little primate that you could get, let alone being off the leash and stuff too, which again, if you let a primate off the leash, unless you have some little trick that you got to make it come back, some species of apes that you can get as pets and stuff, and monkeys, especially monkeys, you know, they're gone and stuff. You know, they're totally instinct driven, and whereas like a baboon and stuff, you know, more family oriented and stuff, you know, with the pride in the troop, probably could come back and stuff. But chimpanzees, I would say the same thing. An orangutan, probably the same thing. But again, it's only when they're ready to come out of that tree, right? All right, so let's take another look. I think I need to get a drink here in a second. So there, it swings back up. It's swinging. It's, you know, it's definitely an either an exotic ape animal pet of some sort, or this is a young Sasquatch juvenile, potentially toddler, depending on the age, you know. It's right there in the middle of that canopy. It comes off that canopy, swings down, goes back up, swings down, goes back up. It's remarkable. It's right there in the middle of that canopy. And it goes right back up. And it's going to come right back out. And it's transcending down right there. Remarkable movement. It'd be amazing to see what it was actually doing close up. Getting to be about the end here. And that big one's right there still. It's right over there. So we'll take this music off and stuff for some of those. I'm sure you had the displeasure, but in my opinion, at the time, I think I've grown from I think this was actually 6 years ago when I first started my channel. This is in my opinion, this is evidence of North American Sasquatch or an exotic animal. I mean, that because you did have exotic animal laws up until the early 2000s in most states, including Michigan. I believe we still have limited and stuff exotic animals, just like Florida, just like almost every single state before exotic animals started getting loose and problems, and chimpanzees started ripping people's faces off and attacking cops and other people, and because wild animals are wild animals. Even if they are your baby for 20 years, they can turn on you like that. They wake up on the wrong side. You wake them up, something happens. But based on the overall settings with the history in that part of the state, with both adult and younger individuals' movements, these creatures have the great ability and coordination well beyond what humans can do. My opinion seems to stop and look at the cameras filming before playing more. This would be the first ever video showing a young Sasquatch playing in the wild. So yeah, in my opinion, it's looking at the people. This sort of activity of like, why would a Sasquatch do all this stuff? Less than you're talking like 50 yards and stuff. It's not that far. It's definitely not a football field away. Why would a Sasquatch, let its young play right there? Right in the under people's noses, and why not? Because that's how they live. They live under people's noses, so it would be an every single day occurrence for them to play and adapt and learn that when people are engaged in activities as talking and showing and pointing and stuff, that this is what they're looking at. Or where their eyes go, that's where they're looking at. They're engaged with certain things and doing certain activities, right? You need to learn to blend in and adapt and play and do what you're doing around humans, if this truly is a Sasquatch, because there is no other explanation of why a natural animal would, be around humans and stuff, because almost every single animal on this planet, land animal on this planet, is deathly afraid of humans, because we hunt, kill, build, destroy all sorts of things that make every single animal really not let their young play right next to people. But if a Sasquatch actually lives in our backyards, they almost have to learn to observe what humans do, in the same way that cats and dogs have learn to observe and recognize vocalization words. A German Shepherd can learn just over 200 words and commands from a trainer and a person, and understands the meaning of that. So 200 words and stuff. Your cat can talk to you and stuff, may not understand fully, but it understands the meaning of certain words that it recognizes through pattern recognition, and also the adaptive full observing your expressions and stuff like that. Also, cats meows and all of that are directly influenced because of humans and stuff when they're begging and stuff and playing us and stuff to be begging of food and stuff like that. The manipulation that some of those cats do and all that, and dogs do too. Very smart and tricky little things. But for a Sasquatch and stuff, to be around humans all the time, as a survival need, you would have to know and how to adapt to what humans are doing, how they're acting, how they're reacting, emotions of us. If a person's mad, a person's sad, crying and stuff, happy. When a person's happy and they're playing, a Sasquatch is observing and has observed the birth of America. You got to understand that Sasquatches have adapted along with America the same rate as America has grown. So they've seen the colonists, they've seen, Revolutionary Wars, the Second British Wars, the Civil Wars, the Native American Indian Wars and stuff, the Industrial Revolution. That before all that, the trains going across the West, conquering the West, the industrialization of America, the highway initiatives of America going into World War II with the super industrialization and tanks and everything rolling across the U.S. all the way until, of course, modern times. They've adapted to basically have to survive alongside humans as we've adapted to, cell phones and all of that now. And they have a niche where they have lived in our environment next to us for such a long time that I think that they know, oh, this is a campground. This is generally at these areas. They might not know what a campground is by saying the word, but they know this kind of an area, this place, this setup is where people come to congregate and play. They stay in these little tents and these cabins or these campers or in their vehicles and stuff. And this is what they do. I am sure, like great apes recognize patterns just like us, recognize patterns and stuff, maybe not understanding the full meaning of, what a phone does, what a flare does, what the computers and stuff do. But they understand when people point stuff, with guns and stuff, people point stuff, it usually means that, they're looking at something. They're analyzing something. So, the whole show could be talked about that, honestly. So I think that this is a display of that, of a Sasquatch is checking on the humans to see what the humans are doing. Engaged in the canned rant. Totally fine. Let's keep playing. Because, in my own opinion, I think that Sasquatch have to live close to people and they have to observe us and they have to teach their young somehow. And the best way to teach young is through play, because they're having fun and they're learning and adapting and clearly working out at the same time. So it's a plethora of a learning experience to be a Sasquatch and plop your young one in a tree 50 yards from a people in the middle of campground and say, here, you need to play up here, but this is how we be stealthy and stuff. You need to almost blend in like you're a leaf on the tree. And because how many people in the whole campground noticed that there was something in this tree? I mean, you would think that if there was a monkey in the tree, or if there was a guy with a monkey at the campground, someone would have been like, hey, can I snap a picture? Can I get a picture with it? Or they would have just snapped a disposable camera picture. And by the time Animal Planet would have came, maybe a lot of people watched that show. Seems reasonable, especially now that internet, Facebook. Yeah, my grandma has a, picture of a monkey in New York in the 90s at a campground. Maybe it could lead to further investigation and actual findings, but no such pictures or testimonies ever came about. So yeah, but from working in trees and stuff, this entire movement of coming down a tree, and we only see that through apes and gibbons and um, lemurs and stuff, swinging through trees and one-handing trees, like, and extending themselves out like an orangutan, swinging and bouncing, and depending on the trees and stuff, a healthy tree, a young healthy tree and stuff can be very limber, and you can swing on stuff and it can have some bounce and stuff, and that's probably why we're seeing how it seems like it's bouncing and stuff, um, especially when it comes off and it's in this middle section of the two trunks and it's hanging there. I think it's definitely hanging off a branch, and that branch is swaying with that weight, and it's coming back up, and then it's climbing something else. So when it comes down, it's breaking itself with tree limbs that are cushioning the fall and the resistance to it, and it can propel it, or it can swing down and stuff like that. Anyone who's used to climb trees when they're a kid and back in the day, I have done some stuff like this. I mean, there's been people who, you climb up spruce trees and stuff like that, and different kinds of trees, and swing, ride them down to the ground and stuff like that. And realistically, this is no different. And then for a survival reasoning, a baby Sasquatch, of course, has to be able to get away and maneuver away from predators. And there's no better option for it than to climb up a tree to escape a bear. I mean, you see how agile that thing is. Black bears here in Michigan, or black bears in New York, can climb trees, but they're not going to be swinging from trunk to trunk like that. They have to go up and they can come back down, but they're not going jumping across stuff, and they're not tiptoeing across limbs. So that a tree, in my opinion, is a toddler, juvenile's home defense. They probably sleep up in the up there. A baby Sasquatches, unless they're sleeping with their parents, I would assume probably going to be up in the tree, because there's nothing that's going to be able to get up there. So let me check on StreamYard for a little bit. Hopefully everyone's doing okay. If you guys have any questions or comments, type them in. I will check periodically. I've always found this video very fascinating. It's because of the movement, and basically, there's not a logical reason why, Sasquatches would do this, unless they absolutely do live right underneath our noses, and they do know how to operate amongst people. I mean, they're in the middle of a whole campground of people, and if they're not afraid to let their toddler play, it shows how confident they are to be around people, and maybe how dull modern people are to be on guard of wildlife around them. Because we've conquered America already. We've conquered the campground. There's no Bigfoot there. So why would we even look? If something is not even in our mind to register, recognize, it's not there. It doesn't exist. None of those people were ever looking for a Bigfoot, had Bigfoot on the brain, weren't worried about bears or anything, I'm assuming, and having their fun in their own little world, just probably like every other person in that campground were. You're in your bubble. If Bigfoot doesn't exist in any kind of framework inside your bubble, you're not looking outside your bubble when you're in Bigfoot places to look for Bigfoot. And shout out to Sasquatch Data Project. She's doing a wonderful job. We'll take a look at her page here in a little bit. With humans and stuff, the bigger, the larger the object, and there's a type of active camouflage where a Bigfoot is large, but big, and like an elephant, an animal that is massive, that you would think, oh, we would be able to see if it's walking in the woods. But when you're in the woods with an elephant and stuff, and they're standing still, you can walk right past it, not even see it, because our brains recognize patterns, recognize movement more than anything. So a big, large object like a tree or a big boulder that isn't moving as we're moving and stuff, and doesn't have any, it doesn't register us as that could be potentially something other than a tree, like a Sasquatch standing there. And we see this type of display with Sasquatch where they stay still or they crouch over and they're like a boulder on a mountain or a tree trunk and stuff. And that, that adaptation works well with, hunting deer and stuff like that. Potentially works very well with us, maybe even adapted to us for our survivability. And also, there was a time period where during the megafauna, the ice age and stuff, where we were killing everything, mastodons and mammoths and every massive megafauna creature here, and the Sasquatches or relative and stuff would have been inside that type of environment food chain and assumably seen what humans were doing and stuff, and maybe retreated into the far reaches of the world, the swamps and the highest mountain peaks, the places where humans really weren't going and stuff because it was too harsh and stuff for an environment for us, where we see these Sasquatches and stuff where they adapted to avoid humans, to observe humans, because if they didn't know and observe and learn about humans and stuff, then they were going to end up like all the other megafauna animals that humans were hunting, supposedly to extinction, but definitely hunting in mass numbers, and our population were exploding like never before. And of course, crossing the land bridge to North America and stuff with the Native Americans, although there was a land bridge on the eastern side to Europe at one point too, that we know animals and stuff came over. So if Sasquatch adapted to avoid humans, they would have, and to watch humans, watch our interaction, watch our eyes, our mannerisms. Maybe don't know our language, but understand emotion, understand us enough. Maybe they're humanistic enough. Some look like us that they understand and can adapt, to blend in, to hide, to coexist in such a way that now in modern America, 200, almost 300 years later, Sasquatches have adapted very nicely to this niche environment of modern America, of, massive amounts of land and wilderness, and everyone's in major population centers or in their houses at night, and we're not traversing the land besides in our cars that are in the roadway with lights, very easy to see. I mean, Sasquatches are basically on the boom, in my opinion. And a lot of people say we'll get back to the video here in a second. A lot of people say Sasquatch populations are going down, but there's no evidence why that would be, other than people's expansion. But if we take a look throughout almost every single state in the last 100 years, there's actually more forests. There's more forests now in Michigan than there were 100 years ago, through conservation efforts, drastic amounts. We've cut down all the trees and stuff and replanted them and stuff, but over 100 years ago and throughout the 1920s, and we were poisoning and using DT and all sorts of crazy stuff. It took a long time for us to rejuvenate the environment and stuff here in Michigan, in other states, to where we have a better ecosystem now in America, in North America, than we did 100 years ago, and even 200 years ago, when the settlers were coming in and chopping the old growth forests and stuff. A lot like the old Paul Bunyan days, chopping that old growth and stuff, So, Sasquatches have overcome a lot, have adapted to a lot. They've seen a lot. Let me get this out of the way. All right, so we should get back to the video and stuff. I keep jumping a little bit over to places and stuff. It's 9 o'clock right now. We'll show these here in a little bit. So Sasquatches have adapted and learned a lot, seen a lot in America, and we have more, again, more healthier forests, bigger populations of deer. In Michigan, I know especially more populations of deer through deer management and stuff, more turkeys and stuff, because we've at one time in our state of Michigan, pheasants, turkeys, and stuff were lacking. Actually, only found in a few spots in Michigan, and now you can basically find turkeys and pheasants in a lot of places and stuff. Where 100 years ago, they were almost not existent and stuff, and deer too and stuff. So, in this idea that Bigfoot population is on the decline because we don't see enough of them, uh, isn't what we see with the entire ecosystem, where we have actually improved the ecosystem. Animal populations are, I would at almost at all-time high, besides pre-Native American pre-contact. And there's a lot that are off limits, like natural areas and stuff. So there are actually areas now compared to 100 years ago and 200 years ago that are totally off limits to hunters and stuff. So they actually have a thriving ecosystem now, cleaner environments, cleaner water than 100 years ago, at the very least. Maybe not 200 years ago, but 100 years ago, we did some very bad poisoning and pesticides and all sorts of stuff. And so, if all the other animal populations are thriving and the forests are booming and stuff, why wouldn't the Sasquatches be? And also, humans don't go outside their house or bedroom past 10 o'clock after they pop in a movie or watching TV or watching the nightly news. There's no one outside besides recreationally doing something at nighttime. But, we're not hunting and gathering or standing guard or exploring or doing any sort of things that last 100, 200 years, homesteading stuff, we would constantly be doing. So, I mean, once it's 10 o'clock and the lights go off, the Bigfoot can roam around a house. I mean, they got the booger lights and stuff. But as a person, when you walk out into your backyard, you can't see past the booger light because the light is too bright. The Sasquatch can see you standing there and can walk around your whole house and see you standing there, walk around your whole house, and you would never know. So that's my opinion, and I think that's what we see displaying. If this is a behavior, and this is an adult teaching its young to learn about humans, to feel confident, to not worry about humans being right there and stuff. We do not know how they operate and their like customs and traditions and how they teach their young to operate so close to us, but it would be amazing to get on camera. It would be National Geographic worthy stuff. So, all right, let's continue to watch this and give a little commentary, and then we'll jump into some other stuff. So we'll play this again. And unfortunately, that big one, we don't see a lot of it, but there is a little bit. You see it right here, the head bobbing. And then that's right there, I think, is what we see. In my opinion, it's hard to see on any video. But when it slows down, you see it right here. You see it right here. And then it's almost like the little one is on its shoulders or on its back, and then it climbs up off of it, and it's inside the tree. The Bigfoot, the adult, moves over here. And then, of course, the camera pans away. It's really hard to see if there's any movement of the little one right there. But when the camera starts panning back, This is like the first section of the clear movement that we get. And so it's right here. That little flash was a ash off the fire. So here it's right there. It swings over into the canopy top, out in the open. And then it comes down. And starts to swing, and we'll see more of the extension that it does right about here. The money shot. There's two money shots. And right there, bam, comes down and fully planted, extended, and looked. I mean, that is definitely a great ape behavior that you would see with an orangutan, chimpanzee, there's tree climbing species. And it's pretty big, for being what we'd assume is a toddler and stuff, where we don't know the exact age and stuff. And Bob Giblin was hypothesizing the age of the animal and stuff before a Sasquatch gets too big to be up in a tree. But in my opinion, the adults can climb that same tree. They're not going to be swinging out on these branches like this thing is, but it most definitely could climb up those trunks of that tree. And I would assume could swing and jump to the next one if it really need to. But the adults swinging and doing this kind of thing, they're going to crash and break the branches. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not going to do that, because they could break and crash land themselves and stop themselves by hanging onto branches as they slowly snap. And it depends on the tree. But, a big Sasquatch could do that. It's just those limbs are going to break. So it's going to be doing a downward fall. I work with trees every day, and they can hold plenty of weight in the crotches of trees and stuff, even on the far extensions and stuff. So much so that we actually use them to take out whole sections of the other tree and stuff and swing them across. And of course, it depends on the tree, the health of the tree, and what kind of physics the Sasquatch is applying to the tree. Amazing stuff. This is just amazing stuff. So this is the zoomed in version, and a little bit of enhancements and color done to it. So it's a little as stable as it can, and it's not too bad in my opinion. But yeah, so you're probably not going to see this anywhere else, the zoomed in version, unless you come in here. I don't think there's any other version like that because I haven't found it. And that was 6 years ago. And when Bob Giblin did this video, he couldn't find the audio. And obviously the audio was in this video at the very beginning. We'll replay a little bit of that. We'll hear the canned rant. But yeah, the audio is out there. It exists. Steve Coles has it on his website. He has the non-audio one because he thinks it takes away from. It's a distraction, yeah. But it's so authentic that these guys are kind of drinking a little bit they're a little lit, obviously, but they're totally engaged in their own world while this spectacular thing is happening, 50 yards or less from them, and totally oblivious. So some skeptics have said, well, that's just the car antenna with a flag waving. It's a car antenna, flag waving. And my total opinion is definitely not, for a number of reasons. We don't see the wind blowing the trees. We don't see the wind blowing the fire sporadically enough to where, oh, the flag's this way, the car antenna is blowing this way, the car antenna is blowing that way. Oh, now it's blowing back this way. When we take a look at the fire, um, bam, looking at him. And this thing is just in there having fun. And I believe that it is checking on these people. When it swings down and it's looking and extending itself, it's looking at them. In my opinion, because they are the closest people to that. So we see the fire right there. You notice that the fire is not waving back and forth sporadically, erratically. It is a controlled burn. It is not a windy day. It is not the wind blowing a car antenna flag back and forth. The fire is completely under control. It is not blowing back and forth in such a way that would match a car antenna. So that theory is completely out of the water. And yeah, it is either an exotic pet that someone had out there that is well trained enough that it will come back to its owner, or it is what we call, Sasquatch, a Bigfoot-like creature, because, of course, we're not right there. We don't have a face-to-face view of the creature, but, there's no other cryptid that we really talk about in North America that would do the sort of things and act like an ape, very primate movements right there. So that's why I think, in my opinion, it is totally a Sasquatch. Totally a Sasquatch. All right, so sorry. When I was watching the video, when we were watching that, I'm not able to look at the comments. So Danny Week says, went out looking the other day. Blues Dog found 2 rattlesnakes. I found 1. Bigfoot, column 0. And you know what? You gotta be careful with those rattlesnakes and stuff out there too. We actually have eastern rattlesnakes out in some of the areas that we go to, and they are starting to come out as the days get nicer and nicer. Yeah, there's more humans in heavy populated centers or cities, like massive cities and stuff. Actually, I think we'll pull up. I think I have the map on my phone. I just haven't. I probably didn't transfer it to the computer. Let me try to find it. Where the total populations, almost it is crazy, but almost all the total high population centers are where most of the people live, not actually in the country and stuff. Like the UP, there's actually a statistic. So there's 9.5 million people here in Michigan. There's only 250,000 people who have residency in the UP and stuff, and those might not even be full timers. So very low population in a huge swath of land. I can't remember the statistic. I thought I saved it, but I guess I just didn't, or didn't push the right button. Or maybe I saved it. It's on my Facebook, and I've just saved it through there, all that. But yeah, there's some pretty interesting statistics and all that. I believe Animal Planet did a recreation and stuff. I think maybe I'll try to play it for you guys. Let me do one thing at a time, though. Um, Yeah, because they did a reenactment, but I'm not sure if it's in the exact same tree because um the Finding Bigfoot on a couple of their seasons or episodes, I think it was a lot of them, and they've said it themselves, that they did not go back to the exact same locations, even though on the show they said that they did, right? I believe one instance they were going to go on to sort of some hilltop mountain peak type of a thing for the reenactment, but it was actually on like a different one that they just it was too far, too a little bit harder to get to and stuff like that. So they kind of like did it on this one. That's not the same one. Um, so I'm not sure if if we were able to find that clip with Bobo up in the tree or not, but no. Let me try that. No, so I probably could find the clip if it was on a playlist, or if they had others linked to that clip. That clip just explains. They just show the video and then explain a little bit of it. So, when Cliff was up, or when Bubba was up in the tree, I believe it was smaller than him. I think they theorized it was like 5 feet or something, 4 to 5 feet, which even at 4 feet is would be a good size. Chimpanzee, good, and it would be way too big for like a gibbon or any type of monkey, smaller great ape or monkey type species that would be up in the tree. Yeah, I'm not finding that. That's okay. If we had the right estimation of exactly where that tree is from the car, we could take measurements based off the model of the car. For that particular year or set of years, it'd only be off for a couple inches, given that years and stuff, depending on the wheelbase and stuff, the body base. But um, it's big enough for us to recognize that it is something pretty significantly up there. Yeah, it's just no other than a recreation of actually being up in that tree. And I think they actually might have went to that property because it's not too hard to get to. It's not like it's a whole mountaintop away. So if Bobo was up in the tree and it was the real exact tree, then 4 to 5 feet would be a pretty good guesstimation. And for a juvenile Sasquatch, that would probably be a couple of years. Not necessarily. I mean, 3 years would probably be 3 feet, a foot a year at least. I would say, depending on how how big it is. We say it's a baby Bigfoot because it's smaller than the adult Bigfoot, and it looks like it's playing in the tree, right? Which we would consider a juvenile or a toddler. Like I would say it's probably at least 4 or 5 years old. At 4 or 5 years old, humans and stuff are very capable and stuff. It also Bob Giblin talked about this in his video is how adaptable is the baby Bigfoot come out um, when they come out at birth. Um, are they like humans where they are just can't do anything? The smarter the great ape and stuff, the more vulnerable it is at birth and stuff. Unlike a deer that or a horse that can get up and start running, or like other animals and get up, start running, get to go. Great apes and stuff. our babies are very vulnerable. Basically, gorillas and chimpanzees and then monkeys. The only thing that the baby can do is hang on and hang on for dear life. And humans, babies, can't even do that. Can't even hold themselves up and do anything. So, what can a Sasquatch do? It also depends on the gestation of how long they are in term, and if they're in the womb a little bit longer and stuff, it gives them a little bit longer time to grow, a little bit more adaptability when they come out. But at the same time, we're not quite sure. But anyone who has a parent had 2-year-olds are pretty crazy pretty quick, but 3-year-olds 100% climbing, doing daring stuff. If a 3-year-old could climb in a tree like that, you 100% would expect them to be up in the tree like that. Although when you tell them to come down, they would throw a hissy fit. And there's no report of a hissy fit being thrown because the toddler Bigfoot got told to come down out of the tree. So, I think 4 to 5 years of age is a good enough. Is to me is where it is the height range of the animal, and also the ability for it to be able to do that physically, and also be able to listen to the adult when it's time to go, or it's time to hide, or the adult says it's time to do something. I mean, that individual Bigfoot, the juvenile, better listen, or it's not like us, or you're grounded, or no TV time for you, or whatever. It's a survival, life and death situation. There's humans here, so I mean, it's hard to say what exactly goes on with, let's say, their culture, or the dynamics of how they operate, or teach their young ones how to operate, or alongside with us, or the environmental dangers, of course, playing and stuff like that, a safe zone, there's so many things wrapped up in that we have no knowledge of. It's kind of all theories and speculation, and we can kind of guesstimate a little bit by what we have observed with primates and gorillas and stuff like that. But if a great ape, an undiscovered great ape, is in North America that has evolved alongside of America itself, that has evolved, I mean, you're talking about it has to be super intelligent, but it has to be doing stuff in such a niche way that it has been able to survive and thrive for so long underneath our noses. Civilian mass noses, not the government nose, because the government knows about them. So who knows what is going on, why they're kept secret, why it's a national cover-up, national defense, security reason. But yeah, it is very I think that's what we see in this video, is a baby Sasquatch displaying behavioral things of a Sasquatch. They're looking at the humans and stuff, and swinging stuff from a tree is totally ape-like behavior. There's no other animal in North America that is a natural continent from this continent, from North America at least, that would be able to do that. South America has monkeys and stuff, but it's either an exotic animal or it's what we would assume a Sasquatch is. It's not a raccoon, it's not a deer, it's not a person. 100,000%, it's not a person doing that. There's no way that a human. There are some people that can do some crazy stuff in trees and do that, but the amount of time it takes for it to get up and down and swing up and come around and stuff, it's too fast for people to even do safely with no harness. You're not strapped in. You got no ropes. We didn't see no ropes, although it's hard to tell. The likelihood of you wanting to fall off 20 feet off the tree, you're going to break something at the very least, or kill yourself if you fall the wrong way and break your neck. It's a plethora of an explosion of interesting topics that you could dive into of potential behavior and learning of why Sasquatches are doing this, because there's no other explanation. Of no other animal would, say, hey, go play over here next to the humans, unless they're familiar with. Sometimes you get foxes and stuff that will play in people's yards, and they get used to the humans on the land and stuff. But for great apes, and for really mostly other animals who know humans as threats and as modern technology, scary, all the etc. stuff. It's an interesting topic, especially the correlation between brain size and infant articular development and societal structures required to support rearing offspring like that. It is and stuff. But again, we don't know how. We don't know if Sasquatches give birth at any point in time, like humans. We can just have them, whatever. Or if they're seasonal, instinctually driven breeding behaviors where they give birth in spring, because that is the best time to give birth in North America for most animals. You have that springtime, the sun, the winter's over with, the growth, the explosion of food. Or can they have babies at any time? They can have, and it doesn't really matter to them. There's no instinctively mating season. There's no mating season. It's just, like humans. Well, whenever it happens, or if we choose to make it happen, we have kids. We don't know how that works. There's a lot of reports of babies being born in springtime and in July. Or I should say there's reports of baby crying and baby vocalization in the woods in springtime, and also during the month of July, the beginning of the month of July. There's a lot of, in Michigan too, a lot of baby vocalization reports in the month of July. So enough so that there could be a correlation of that's, in some people's opinion, like Val's, I believe he thinks that's a good time period for them to be given birth, and for you not to go chasing after baby crying vocalization in the woods. Because I mean, I did a post on Facebook and stuff. It might be a little controversial, but at the same time, there was this video of some other country, it was a different country where this guy's, I think he's in a train station. He has his little kid's hand and stuff, and two guys basically check him out, stalk him out, and set him up. And one guy distracts him, and another guy takes his kid away. And by the time he turns around and realizes his kid's gone, and he don't know what happens to the kid, but he does. He goes in the right direction. Not too long after, but a crowd of people came in between him and that kidnapper and that kid, and that's a death sentence. And here in America, you try to steal someone's kid, you try to steal my kid, I'm gonna fucking kill you. There's no in between about it. That's what's gonna happen if you come in between a newly born Sasquatch baby and its mother, or the post-birth mother with the baby and a male, or other family members standing guard, because that is a very bad situation to be having yourself in, and you might not even have put yourself knowingly in that situation. But so early spring, springtime and July, could be a potential hazardous month if you come up onto a Bigfoot teepee structure and it looks like it's been used to give birth or something, because that's some other speculation. And the one that we actually documented in Michigan, the BFRO actually came out to that site, documented it, but actually blew it off because uh, because there's never been a Sasquatch seen making one, and it's not related. Even though there was hair samples, there were tracks that got sent to Belgium. He said they were good hair samples that were sent to Belgium that he kind of took for himself, and has stopped responding back to the sender of those hairs to Jeff Meldrum. So that's a different story, different topic. This Danny Weeks, yeah. Are you saying Sasquatch condoms? No, but I am saying that chimpanzees engage in sexual activity in breeding seasons and stuff. I think they have a little bit of different mechanisms than like a breeding season, like a deer and stuff, like mating season and stuff that we see in a lot of different animals, but herd animals. I don't think that I think like chimpanzees and chimpanzees more so than gorillas, but chimpanzees engage in sexual activity for pleasure and not necessarily to get for reproduction purposes. And so Sasquatches might there have been reports that that they're engaged in this sort of activity as maybe a recreational, not necessarily mating season and sort of thing. Also, we don't know if how that hierarchy is set up, if there's a top male that breeds with multiple females in the troop, like a gorilla and chimpanzees, or if there are like what would be, I guess, humans and stuff, which would be very abnormal animal behavior, where maybe they actually only have one pair, they're monogamous and stuff, like some bird species and stuff are monogamous throughout their entire life. We don't know, we have no idea. And both has their pros and cons when it comes to survivability and the reasoning for it in the animal kingdom. But it's hard to say, but we don't have examples of bloody, beaten, broken, torn up alpha male Bigfoots that have lost their reign, like we see in the animal kingdom with lions, with other ape species, chimpanzees and stuff, of when the top guy gets challenged and he's old and he gets challenged by that new up and comer who's young and vibrant, there's a bloody clash, and most of the time it ends in death. In gorilla societies and stuff, it doesn't end in death. It ends with submission and stuff. And the old ones, because gorillas don't actually, as big as they are, they're not as violent as chimpanzees. I mean, chimpanzees, there's a bloody struggle and outcome with that when the leader falls, or they go after other people. When gorillas fight or they reprimand others and stuff, it's very non-violent, grabbing and tackling and holding you down, grunting and stuff. There's not ripping your face off, trying to gouge out your eyes, your nose, your tongue, your genitals, which chimpanzees do to other chimpanzees. We don't see Bigfoot's alpha clan members engaged in that kind of violence, of bloody to the death violence, where you have one that's dead or broken, or even potentially both of them. And I think that if they're social, like gorillas and stuff, they're very social and big, and that they don't need to be as violent as chimpanzees. And I think we see that in a number of reasons. We don't have a lot of attacks from people that are reported. But we don't have the bloody mess of these battles, of the victors and the losers, or of a draw. I mean, you could have a bloody battle where both alpha males kill each other. I mean, we see that with bear attacks when two bears just go at it and they literally just kill each other, or lions, they literally fight to the death, and there is no winners. And then what does the outcome do for the rest of the troop or the tribe or the clan? Nothing and stuff. So if you have, like, a son, like a lion, a son, will challenge his dad and kill his dad. Well, in the Sasquatch community, that doesn't help anyone. And if it helps, you step down. Now your son helps the clan. Everyone's intact. There's no violence. There's more cooperation. I think it's more logical for them to do that, like a gorilla. And also, if they're very family oriented and very tight niched family oriented and stuff, then the fight to the death and stuff is probably not something that maybe they want to do with their family. If they have an emotional attachment, that's my son, that's my father, even though I'm the big badass motherfucker that should be running this thing, I can't kill my dad. That's beneath us. And we don't see examples of that happening. I don't think that's happening. I mean, maybe there's a custom and they do battle to the death, they bury the dead, there's some ceremony to do something with the body and stuff. I mean, we just don't know. But there's almost no examples of Sasquatches attacking and fighting and killing each other. I think there's reports in John Green's book of Sasquatches practicing wrestling with each other, and it was almost described where it was like a competition match, not an aggressive fight to the death, alpha male challenging the other one, but it was a wrestling match with almost like, of course I'm paraphrasing and kind of throwing my own thing at it, but like a set of rules and understanding engaged in that. So yeah, so that's kind of my opinion on that kind of sort of stuff and the behavior reasonable wise. And and if they were violent, like if they were more violent and did fight to the death, we would have more accounts of Sasquatches attacking people, more so than the missing people and that kind of stuff. But fully attacking people's houses more for all the time, it would be on the news if they were bloodthirsty and like this all the time and totally void of thought process and risks and consequences and understanding of human emotions and what we do. And what happens if you kill one of us or you take one of us? Well, like ants, we all just come out of the cities and start looking for that person that is missing. If they weren't as smart and as intelligent as pattern recognition, as human observation and studying as humans, I don't think they would have remained as elusive to Americans in America since the very birth of America. There is a whole host of reasons why we have almost every other land animal on this planet in a fucking zoo, but we don't have a Sasquatch in a zoo. We don't have him recognized. There's a reason behind that, and if it's not the woo side things, then it has to be an incredibly intelligent North American primate that has evolved alongside of America, has evolved alongside of modern man, modern technological man, iPhone man. It has evolved far past the great apes that we see on all the other continents combined. And this intelligence might be human enough. Maybe there is some human DNA in there, or some offshoot something where there is this intelligence, there is this recognition, this relatability that when we look at a Sasquatch, it looks like a human. There must be a reason why they feel so comfortable doing this with us, around us all the time. Because if they were totally instinctively driven, wild, relying on instinct all the time, we would get them. We would catch them. They would slip up a lot more than they do. They would prey upon us. There would be things that they absolutely could not avoid, like a starving dog to the bull. There's absolutely no way they could avoid going to that bull. It doesn't matter what is going on. They need that food. That dog will go to that bull. If you've ever seen, starving dogs or some of these videos of, some of these third world countries crap, those dogs care. They don't care about anything else about that except that food that's in that dish. We would have examples of instinctively driven Sasquatches doing all sorts of crazy stuff. We would be able to recognize them as a species, but we don't because they're highly intelligent. So, all right, guys. So now I'm going to play some audio for you guys. Since you guys have been so wonderful and you guys have been here the entire time, I will reward you with the stuff that I have been teasing for over a year. Over a year because a number of reasons and stuff as we get into it. Mainly because I was just vetting the people and stuff who gave me the audio and seeing if they would ever crack or change up or slip up or do anything that would seem like, oh yeah, yep, that totally fake. But I don't know. So. And I'm going to be, I meant to send this to a bunch of people a while ago. It always seems like it always slipped out of the way, but I'll be sending this to a bunch of people because I know most people aren't going to be watching the show the entire time and watching this little segment or know to skip to it. So make sure you guys are turn up your volumes, get your headsets on. I this is going to be pretty loud. This is amplified and stuff, so like it should be loud enough for you guys to hear and stuff. So I'm not sure if it's going to be too loud at first or what. So just be prepared for anything. But I tried to definitely make it loud so you guys would have no problem. Because if we did it on like Audacity and stuff, you guys might have had more issues that way. All right, we'll go to share screen, share the entire thing, share with audio. All right, here we go. Let it play. So that was just a little bit of clip, just a little segment of video one. So let me know, how'd you guys hear that? Okay, was it good enough? Was that full volume? So I don't think I can actually make it louder unless I amplify it more, but that's going to take a little bit of a time. So not for this show. I'm going to play the second clip here in a second, but yeah, 2 growls at the end, tree breaking and stuff. So I have the video of this because she took it on her phone, and she's in the laundry room and stuff, and she gets freaked out and goes inside the house a little bit more. Starts video 2, and video 2 has some interesting vocalization. So let me get that up. All right, so here is the second short clip. It's only like 8 seconds long, but it doesn't matter because you guys will totally understand. All right, so that is just another short little clip from the full video that I have. So hopefully you guys heard that okay. That kind of I don't know how to describe that, like kind of like a shrieking thing. So if you guys have any opinions, thoughts, comments, ideas of what that could be, let me know. I'm also going to send this out and stuff to a couple of different people, get some opinions and stuff, and then we'll be taking a look more on this audio, get some opinions and stuff from people, and taking a look a bit more and stuff. Yeah, so the story is that this woman was hearing the tree breaking and stuff and something moving around outside of her house in February 2018. And then she started recording and you start hearing the tree breaks and you start hearing 2 growls. And there's more stuff that she hears that, the camera doesn't, the phone doesn't pick up. And then the second video has this kind of a shrieking, guttural shrieking thing going on and a couple breaks. So that is the juicy juice of it. So yeah, that and actually that happened very close to where my very first encounter happened. Actually, that happened right down the road. Actually, so mine happened in 2004. Yeah, 2004. Where I had my first encounter where the thing crossed the road and jumped over this ditch and went and stopped, 30 feet from me in this thicket, that encounter. This audio comes down the road. 14 years later. Crazy stuff. And there's a couple stories I have actually of that whole area back there because I kind of used to, I'd go bigfooting and, we're out in the middle of the country and, it might not have been my property, but definitely people I knew and landowners and stuff. But I used to go bigfooting and stuff and actually went back behind this property a couple times. One of the times I remember because I got stuck in the swamp. I jumped a ditch. Very unique ecosystem in there. I actually developed a lot of different opinions, I guess my own theories on Sasquatch and stuff. living out there and exploring this that woods. Actually, I was actually out there all the time because my mom had died. We had moved to this property, so I was out there a lot, practically. And there was one time, it's what I call in Michigan, micro habitats and micro ecosystems. So micro habitats of, you have a rolling hill recovering field. You have a couple of a bushy field. You might have a little bit of mixed hardwoods. Then you have a whole nother section that's straight up pines. Then you have another section that it's a marshy swamp. Then you have another section where a creek goes in, and all these environments are like micro environments and stuff. They're like a micro habitat of the landscape changing into a recovering field, hill, brushy area, almost like a prairie type of environment, to hardwoods, pines, mixed woods, swamp, creek environment, or a total swamp or flooded woods and stuff. Yeah, and there's times out there where I'd walk by myself in the middle of the night with a Bowie knife, and there was one time I don't know what, I don't know if it got zapped or something. I just got wigged out, and I felt like there was something like right around me, and it was at this spot where I had walked a couple months previously during the summer and found a little like baby footprint. And at that spot, that one night coming back, because I would go in one way then come back, but coming back towards the road and stuff, that one time I just got freaked out in that exact same spot. There was times where we're actually waiting for the bus and had like acorns or little nuts thrown at us and stuff. We would actually hear vocalizations in the morning and stuff, and that was after my encounter and stuff. And I had been going out there and more, and it seemed like it it knew when we were out there on the bus, but also on that property, that's where I seen the stick man. A lot of weird stuff on that property, a lot of weird stuff in that area. And I tried to jump this ditch in the middle of the swamp, and I didn't quite land there, and I got instantly sucked up to my chest of muck and swamp water. Luckily, I was able to get out. It wasn't like too bad of quicksand and muck, but yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I also seen a fisher there. Very healthy ecosystem in that environment. And yeah, so that audio comes right down the road, actually, and of a potential male Sasquatch that is not too happy for whatever reason and stuff. Very unclear why the Sasquatch decided to make its presence known. I think maybe because the lady actually noticed it. Potentially, we're not sure. Other than that family had been there for many years, 10 years, and grew up there and stuff. So I don't know, but if a Sasquatch was in that area and in that type of environment, it would have been people watching. It would have known the people, I'm sure, window watching and stuff like that. There's a set of routines of, I'm sure what that family would do seasonally and stuff. And, of the kids playing and stuff like that. And as they get older, some of those activities changes and they adapt. But yeah, it is it's almost a confirmation to me, especially because I bumped into this woman and stuff and talked to her and bumped her again, friendly conversations. And then, I threw down, well, I'm into Bigfoot. I look for Bigfoot and stuff. And my mom has a video of, we don't know what was going on outside her house. And it's like, well, back in the day, that's where I had my Bigfoot encounter, and this and this and this. And really, basically, you just kind of holding on to that in the video, really. And that person would say, oh, I'm just faking, or, change up or story. And I actually try to get out there and um, try to film there, but their parents are not, not very open to that idea. And I don't blame them stuff either, because they live there, and they're there. And uh, but yeah, so maybe I'm trying to get maybe get her, the daughter, on video, or even audio at least, to give her, just tell the story in her own words, and maybe a little bit background, ask some questions and stuff like that. But we will see if that happens this year or not. I have no idea. We just got the thermal, so that's the only camera I really wanted. But if I had a documentary camera and stuff, it'd probably look pretty good to have them out there. Maybe not at their location, but I could definitely get to my location where I had my encounter. I have them right there at the roadside. Might not be able to get on that property, but from that roadside, you can see exactly where I was standing, right where I was at. So, yeah, I think it is a little bit of some validation, actually, because it's not that far at all. It is just down the road. I mean, it is. Like I said, I've actually been out there behind their house and stuff. I wasn't really supposed to, but at the same time, I mean, I wasn't doing nothing, just walking in the woods and stuff, Um, yeah, I do feel validated, actually, a little bit, but I already knew Sasquatches were real from my encounters, and all the years since then, in different areas with different people. This was more of a validation of they're still there. There's still someone there. They're still going through there. And to me, that is the validation that they're still actually using that whole massive area. And not that just area, but it's like a country block, it's a mile by a mile by a mile. And all the houses are on the outside square. And on the inside, you have the farming fields. Or on the inside of that, you have the swamps, the marshes, and the woods. And it's like this island of Bigfoot habitat. And then they have to get from this island, they have to get to the next island of habitat. But they have to go in between the houses, cross the road, in between some more houses, to get to that island of natural habitat that they can live and thrive in. And then they have to move on. And when I was out there every single day, it seemed like every 2 weeks the activity would happen. So like every 2 weeks they were in that area, they were around, and then for like 2 to 3 days, and then nothing. And then 2 weeks would roll around, and then some weird, unexplainable, coincidental stuff that would happen. There was one time I rode my bike to my friend's house. So it had been, down the road and up. It was probably 5 miles away, but a couple country blocks away. I'm riding, and it sounded it was coyotes going off. They were like attacking something. They were doing the yippee 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 thing, and then they started attacking something, and all of a sudden it sounded like a coyote just got ripped to freaking shreds and died there. And this thing made a vocalization. I don't know if it was a Bigfoot, but it was when that 2-week period thing happened where this weird stuff would happen. And, so yeah, I think that's what they were doing around there. I don't know if that's all Bigfoot, but every 2 weeks they would be in that area. And then discovering tree manipulation, discovering places where it looked like something big was sitting, ambushing game trails and stuff, learning all that stuff out there, seeing all that. So my friend's property that I would ride my bike to and stuff, there was footprints and stuff that they found, that we found. one time that I thought was pretty real. There was one time we were out there, we had a bunch of girls with us, and we were playing a trick on them and stuff, kind of just freaking them out. So we would take them to this edge to the wood line across this big hayfield, and so the us guys went into the field, into the woods a little bit, and just scaring them a little bit, letting them sit in the dark a little bit, and um, we were like, okay, let's go out. They've had enough time in the dark, without flashlights. Let's go out there and stuff, because you could hear them, and So we kind of went up, and I was on the very right hand side. I remember hearing my friend go up, and I decided to like kind of veer off, then like I cut back up in, and when I did that, I thought I was hearing my buddy next to me. But when I walked up and stuff around, like I walked up this hill and kind of around this like bend, there was no one there. There was nothing there. And I had this weird feeling. And when I walked out to the field, I was like, hey, were you right there? Because I heard you walk past. I mean, I walked right up there, and they were out there. They weren't back there. And one of those times. Did it laugh? No, no laughing. No laughing. I'm not sure if I something. I don't believe I said anything laughed. No, I didn't. The vocalizations we heard there would be like some yells and roars, whoops. Well, okay, so coyotes can make a cackling laughing sound. It's like a cackling sound, and it can sound like laughter and stuff. But Sasquatches are reported to laugh and find things funny too. So hard to say. Yeah, I remember one time I was out in the middle of the woods with my boy knife. I walked underneath a wire fence, and I just whatever, and I'm walking, and I hear something. And I turn around, and there's this 7-foot tall dude right there. 7-foot tall dude. I'm like, oh my god, it's Bigfoot. And then he turned its head, and it was a horse. It was a horse. He was standing straight in line with me. It looked like a 7-foot tall Bigfoot standing there. The horse was all like this, like, hey, what are you doing here? And he turned its head, and oh my god. I about died, because I was just like, oh my god. And it was right there. And it was an older horse, and I had walked into the pasture. I didn't really realize it, and he was pretty chill. They had this younger horse come up, and he was snorting at me, and he didn't like it. He didn't like that I was in the pasture after dark, and he didn't know who I was. So I stayed close to that older horse and petted him and talked to him and stuff. I kept that younger horse a little bit away from us and in between that old horse in between us, because I didn't want him to kick me or stomp me, or say horses are pretty smart. It was something that's abnormal, but at the same time, it just got me thinking, well, how do they react as a Sasquatch out here? I mean, do they think like it's a wild freaking animal and go ballistic, or do they think it's like another person out there? I mean, if the Sasquatch doesn't show any aggression and stuff, yeah, it looks a little weird, smells a little weird, but it looks like a person. Well, I mean, it kind of looks a little different, but I mean, seems like it's a person. If a Sasquatch acts nice and treats it well, I mean, a horse or dogs and stuff, other animals, can be very receptive and stuff to that sort of behavior, and are intelligent enough to understand, like, this creature's not going to hurt me. There's other reports of Sasquatches doing very bad stuff to horses and very bad stuff to dogs and cats, like eating them and using horses for pleasure and stuff like that. But There's a lot of different reports and stuff. Hmm. Ah, I see. Yeah, that definitely is pretty weird. And Val would say that Sasquatches have a very vindictive and cruel sense of humor. Um, the very Val thinks that they're pretty violent and actually very more aggressive than what is reported, is mainstream community reported, and also the stereotype of a forest hippie Bigfoot is not something that registers with Val. It's more of a predatory opportunist who has no concept of stealing and believes that what is yours is also theirs, and it's theirs to take, including your kids and uh, wife, women, and all that. Different sets of standards. We don't have the same societal standards and stuff because they're not human. Also, the window peeking that Bigfoot display. Um, if humans displayed it, that is uh, signs of mental issues or more stuff to follow. Voyager, window watching, a Voyager watching people. Statistically and stuff, I would say that a male Voyager who repeatedly does that is more likely to go on to become a rapist or a criminal of that kind of nature. Um, not These are patterns where in human society these are patterns that are recognized as people up to no good. Window watching your kid, I mean, there's a window peeper watching my kid, that's a no-go zone, right? That's not good. But if there's a Bigfoot watching your kid, well, it's a Bigfoot sighting, and it was just watching the kid. It wasn't doing anything bad. There's all this. Val would say, we put all this like, oh well, this misinterpretation of the Sasquatch being a docile, it's just watching us. Val would say, yeah, I was watching, waiting for opportunity to take the kid, or in his opinion, a window watcher like that, there's nothing good from that. I would have to agree and stuff. I don't want to 7 foot tall monster basically playing patty cake through the window with my kid, right? What if he wants to keep playing or she wants to keep playing? And great apes and monkeys have a habit of kidnapping babies from humans. In India, this happens actually quite often. Monkeys will kidnap babies from their homes and stuff. So that does happen. That is a great ape behavior. Not so much with gorillas and chimpanzees, but yeah. So we're gonna. I got the hiccups. Been struggling all night. We're gonna be shutting the show down. It's about. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, or topics you quickly want to talk about, put them in chat. I think it was a pretty good, interesting show. We'll probably we will be going live from the field on Friday, probably, because I actually have Friday off. It's going to be bad weather, and boss is going camping up more, so I shouldn't have Friday doing anything. So I should be going live. I'm going to set up some audio recorders out into the woods in an area where we've actually had a number of different stuff we've shown on here on different live streams last summer. So a good area. And we got some more areas, got private property I can set up now. Actually, so yeah, the actually new report that I just got it yesterday. was on a job site walking with a guy and talking with a guy, and my boss was talking with him and stuff, and he's like, "Hey Blake, you got a picture of Bigfoot on your phone and stuff? One of the ones that you got or you know of?" And I showed Val's picture to him and stuff, and we got talking. He's like, "You know what?" He's like, he's like, every once in a while, there's something that messes with my dog. He's like, it's really weird, and you know, basically the dog doesn't act like this around the deer. The dog's pretty chill. It just watched us and stuff. Very chill. Kind of a shepherd kind of a dog, but it's not like a collie kind of a shepherd. It has a more of a almost like a hound, not a hound snout looking thing, but it's a shepherd mixed with something. I have no idea. It's kind of a bigger kind of a dog, not a collie, small collie breed, but it's a kind of a bigger, not like a German shepherd, but like a sheep herder kind of a dog, a farm dog looking thing. But anyways, he was saying that his dog gets messed with, or something bothers the dog, and it's not the deer, it's not the raccoons, it's not normal. He doesn't really know what it is, but you know, I'm thinking, obviously, because he told us, Bigfoot and stuff, because I don't know how they got it brought up, but he was very interested and wanted to see the picture and kind of know. And I was like, if you ever want us to come out here, you got my boss's number. He got my number. We'll have to be out. The boss is like, yeah, it'll be just a long night of nothing but mosquitoes biting our faces. And ain't that the truth? So, and this is in an area where history of sightings and stuff, Yeah, so pretty interesting stuff. I hope everyone had a great time, enjoyed the show, stuff like that. Everyone who's watching after, hopefully you guys enjoy it. I don't know if the Beast System is going to be doing a show tomorrow. We haven't been doing the show a couple times because of Emily's scheduling. The Beast System, we talk about political conspiracy and otherworldly crazy coincidences that seem to be happening on the world stage. It's a little bit more of that kind of a show that we do. So I'm not sure if I'm going to know tomorrow if we're going to do that or if not. So hopefully you guys all have a good rest of the night. God bless each and every single one of you, because you are totally worth it. You guys are amazing. And without further ado, we're going to play the outro, the intro, the outro, the video. The video that the video, the music video that I laid down the foundational riffs and stuff. We had I think I helped throw on some stuff, and then I produced it a little bit more to make it to what it is now, slowed it down a little bit, did some stuff. So yeah, you guys enjoy. See you next time.